Next, we have Dr. Rakesh Gupta, who is going to show us cases where echo becomes very important. So, Dr. Rakesh Gupta, please.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and I'm thankful to organizers as well the chairpersons for allowing me to talk on this session. Let's have a one case study. A 60-year-old female presented with breathlessness NHYA 203, past history of bilateral radical mastectomy followed by radiotherapy. Her hematological biochemical parameters were normal, so was the XHS. Now she's on a regular chemotherapy, ECG was near. Look at this echo first image where LV function is absolutely normal. We have a trivial amount of mitral regurgitation. There's some amount of thickening and calcification on these mitral valve leaflets, some amount of matrilineal calcification, as well as the cords which are little calcified. We looked at the complete LV function of this lady. This was absolutely normal. And when we looked at three, septal annulus was 6, lateral was 10, LVI AVI index was 26.1. Average of E2 prime was 9.75, TR velocity of 2.5. And if you classify this on American Society of Echocardiography, she classified as grade 1 with normal LA volumes. We went on to do a 2D strain for this lady for LV function. This is 4-chamber view, classically depicting a 2-dimension strain. This is 2-chamber view, and this is a 3-chamber view for the same patient. And if we comprise this particular lady, she has got an average GLS of 14.63. With her earlier GLS, which was close to 20%. If you interpret these images, this paper published in 2014 in American Society of Echocardiography, classically talking about reduction of GLS in pre-chemotherapy patient and a post-chemotherapy patient. If this says that it's not the echo which makes a difference. How does this echo transforms into a therapy? This is a paper published in 2013 and subsequently in 2020 also talking about the role of cardioprotective therapy for prevention. It said that if you have a reduction of GLS more than 15%, use beta blocker, and they had significant improvement in their heart failure when we had this kind of a therapy. Started with beta blocker and statins in their armamentariums. Let's move on to the next patient. 36-year-old male serving in military presented with breathlessness for last couple of years, which he breathlessness was gradually increasing over a period of time and it was referred to echo from RR hospital, and there the RR hospital imaging qualities are there. And if you look at this echo in plaques view category says some amount of a problem at the AML, and that's A2 scallop of the AML. And we went on to do a 2 dimensions apical view. It shows category a large amount of mitral regurgitation which was happening of the mitral valve. Subsequent images which we did in 2 dimensions view transthoracic category shows that possibly the P2 scallop or a P3 scallop, A2 or A3 scallop is classically showing some amount of prolapse in this patient. similar images, and this is final transthoracic images. We went on to build up our three-dimensional transthoracic echo in this patient, which did not give us any significant clue why these things were happening. When we looked at this subsequently in transesophageal echocardiography, this is P talking of A2 and P2 scallops, subsequently A3 and P1 scallops, and then P3, A2, and P1 scallops in the transesophageal echocardiography. And now we can see some amount of prolapse of P3 scallops seen over here. But the most important thing came when we went on to do a three-dimensional reconstruction of this patient. And this, how can a person who has this cleft get into an army? And subsequently, on coxing the history, he had some amount of a trivial trauma which he developed while he was serving in army in high altitude. Saying that this three-dimensional reconstruction and a live four dimensions echo, patient was having a severe mitral regurgitation. And the most important thing is not only the cause, is not only the diagnosis. Now this patient subsequently underwent a surgery where the subsequently opening of her chest showed the classical AML cleft, and a mitral valve replacement was done for this patient. Next, 26-year-old male presented with loss of consciousness, 2 episodes till date. And these 2 episodes showed ECG was normal, XHS was normal, recent history of fever with cough and cold recovered spontaneously. And look at her LV function. The LV function was absolutely normal for this young patient, which was done a few days back, only this 13/11/2020. And when we look at a diastolic flow pattern for this patient, there was normal LV diastolic function in this patient. Then we went on to evaluate. The most important thing was evaluation of this RV function. RV functions appear to be normal. And the surprising finding, the single one which came out, look at the huge dilated IVC, which was hardly collapsing for this patient. The cause of a dilated IVC in this patient was normal systolic function. And now why this abnormality was present. And this diagnosis led to us further evaluate the two-dimensional stain for RV. And look at the two-dimensional stain of RV. If you critically look, the apical stain was well preserved in RV free wall. The basal and mid-segmental stain was significantly reduced in this patient, suggesting what? Suggesting that possibly we are dealing with some kind of a pulmonary embolism. Dilated IVC would have collapsed. Lower limb venous thrombus was showed bilateral thrombosis. COVID-19 came out to be positive, and D-dimer was significantly high when we wanted to do it. And CT pulmonary angiogram showed the evidence of pulmonary embolism. And this was a very unusual presentation of pulmonary embolism, which was detected very early in two-dimensional stain. Conclusion saying that advances in echocardiography has made a lot of impact in diagnosis of patient. Not only in diagnosis, but in therapeutic and subsequently intervention of these patients. Three-dimensional echo, both transesophageal and transthoracic, makes a lot of difference, and two-dimensional stain of LV and RV, which we have been doing regularly in our lab, is making a real difference for a diagnosis, therapeutic, and finally outcome of this subsession. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. I'm sure we have conducted a correct at 12 minutes time.
Dr. Bhargav, you have to unmute yourself.
Dr. Bhargav, Dr. Sharma.
Yeah, like
Any questions? We can take a couple of questions. That will be fine.
Dr.
Every session we can have 1 or 2 questions.
Dr. J.K. Sharma, you would like to comment?
Yes, Dr. Rakesh, very wonderful cases, and you have to have a mind and a vision behind diagnosis of these cases. But how do you suspect that this is going to happen in this particular patient?
I say echo is a focused imaging. Look at what patient is telling you in history. Don't jump for a diagnosis. Don't look at all images. You focus at one particular point and then you approach those people. This patient of COVID-19 had come with loss of consciousness referred for stress echocardiography. said, we are not going to do a stress echocardiography. We changed the complete modality and we treated in, like when we see an IVC which was dilated, that was a changing paradigm for us. And two-dimensional strain was so characteristic that he kept on asking the repeat history in a retrospective fashion, and he was opening up one by one. So
Right.
this is only the way which we have been doing in our lab as on today.
Thank you.
Dr. Gupta, is there, sir, any feasibility or any study or any experience that we have used GLS for studying the subclinical LV dysfunction in COVID? Probably that is one of the things that is very fascinating. And these patients who are having long-term effects, these are still under investigation, different manifestations they are presenting with. Is it a possibility?
Mohit, is true. Till now, we have collected 19 cases of a COVID where LV function was normal and subclinical LV dysfunction was present. And we are following these people. Look, we cannot do otherwise. And this has come out to be very well the parameters these people are suffering beforehand their LV function deteriorates. And that becomes contributed to their clinical outcomes.
So that will be really fascinating because even in the chronic coronary syndrome, subclinical LV dysfunction is known to have a long-term poor prognosis as compared
Correct.
to normal.
Sure, definitely.
How many of these were existing diabetic patients?
Which one?
These COVID patients which you...
We have to analyze, JK. I can't tell you right now. I'm another pursuing a study of subclinical LV dysfunction in diabetes and hypertension separately and jointly also. We have done about 46, 47 cases selectively till date.
Right.
Maybe the literature will start coming by this end itself.
Okay.